Hello, welcome to the video instructions for completing Computer Lab assignment number 4. This will be the final Computer Lab assignment for the course. Here I have a sample course. I'm going to go ahead and click on Module 16. It's very likely that Computer Lab assignment number 4 is located in Module 16, but in the event it's not, that's okay. We're just going to use this as a model for what you're doing in your course. Here we can see Computer Lab assignment number 4. Down below you're going to see the data file. If you've already accessed JASP and pulled that data file in, there's no need for you to use that file. If for some reason you haven't been successful in doing that in the past, please save the data file to your desktop so that we can bring it in when we enter JASP. I'm going to click here on Computer Lab assignment. You're going to see the typical instructions for downloading JASP and bringing in the data file. As I said before, if you've already done this, go ahead and skip on over to actually bringing in the variables that I want for you to conduct descriptives on. I have JASP on my desktop, so I'm going to just go ahead and access it here. You should recognize JASP. You would click here on these three bars, open, recent files. There's the recent file that I've been working on. I'll pull that up. You should recognize that data. We've used it before. Let's go ahead and go back to our course to look at what I'm asking you to do. For some reason, it pulled us out of the assignment. That's okay. We'll just scroll back down and find it. Here we go. Those are the general instructions for accessing JASP. Again, you may have already done that. So now I'm asking you to bring up some specific variables so that we can conduct a correlation between the variables. I'm asking specifically here for anxiety before and after the semester, and then these other variables like semester units, hours of sleep, total units, trusted the police, and college year. Now, we're not going to use all of those, but I just thought it would be nice to look at some correlations between those variables. Instead, we are going to hypothesize that anxiety before the semester will be correlated with anxiety after the semester. It's important for us to state our hypothesis before we look at the data so that we know that it's based on some type of theoretical assumption. The assumption I'm going to use is to say that students who have higher levels of anxiety before the semester will also most likely continue to have higher levels of anxiety after the semester. So we're almost looking at a generalized level of anxiety here. Let's go ahead and jump into JASP, and I'll move some of those variables over. We'll use descriptives to move the variables over. I said trust of the police. You can click on what seems to be of interest to you besides the two that we're going to look at according to our hypothesis, which are anxiety before and after the semester. I think I have been interested in the past in hours worked. And let's see, let me scroll down here. Amount of hours that a student is sleeping, semester units is always interesting to me. And I also want to pull in college year, which I've actually coded as 1, 2, or 3, depending on the number of units a student is carrying. Let me drag this over so we can really get a good look at the correlations once I pull those up. Here's a descriptive statistics. We've seen this before. We looked at work hours in our previous computer lab, so you can see that's exact same information as before. Now, in order to conduct a correlation, I'm going to click here on regression, and here's the link to conduct the correlation. Now we have to pull the variables that we're specifically interested in over. And I'm going to pull over trust of the police, and I'm also going to pull over the anxiety before and anxiety after. And I'm just going to throw in a couple other variables of interest to me. like hours worked because I've worked with that variable, and college year. Right away, JASP calculates the correlations for us. We don't need to worry about that. We have these computer programs that do all the calculations for us. What we want to be able to do, though, is interpret what these mean. So remember that I had said that our hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, would be that the correlation for anxiety level before and after would be significant. Now, if we look at it, this is it right here. Anxiety level before and after. And we have a correlation, or R equals 0.421. And that p-value is less than 0.001. Anytime we have a p-value of less than 0.05, it's significant. So this supports our hypothesis that there is a significant correlation between anxiety level before and after the semester. You can go ahead and look at some of these other correlations if you're interested in them. I want to go ahead and move forward to conduct the ANOVA. Now, I'll go ahead and click here on ANOVA. We're just going to do a simple ANOVA. Let's go ahead and look back briefly at our computer lab assignment. And I said in order to conduct the ANOVA, I was interested in looking at college year and trust of the police. And I wanted to hypothesize that I expected that as critical thinking skills increase, meaning students have taken and passed more college courses and thus have higher units, they're more likely to notice issues with law enforcement and develop a distrust of law enforcement. So that would be your alternative hypothesis. That should be stated in both symbols and words. Let's go ahead and go back on over and use those variables to conduct our ANOVA. So our dependent variable would be trust of the police. We'll go ahead and move it over. And then our group variable would be college year. I think I mentioned before that college year is broken up into 3 separate groups, 1, 2, and 3, based on the number of units that students have passed. Now, here's our ANOVA table. Again, JASP has calculated that for us. We can see our degrees of freedom within and between. Here are the residuals in terms of sums of squares and residuals for mean squares. The F ratio, remember, is a ratio of within and between mean differences, and our F value is 1.093 with a p-value of 0.339. Because that p-value is not less than 0.05, we cannot conclude that there is a significant difference in the level of trust amongst these 3 groups. Because our F statistic did not come out significant, this means that we're not going to go forward to perform post hoc analysis, right? Because we're finding that there is no difference between our 3 groups. Okay, if you are not able to access JASP directly, go ahead and take screenshots of this correlation in ANOVA so that you can use them to answer your questions below. Now remember, for our computer lab assignments, you're going to be answering these 4 questions, and you need to be answering them in paragraph format. This means using professional language, proper paragraph indentation, and addressing each of these 4 questions. For question 1 and 3, I'm asking you about stating the null and alternative hypothesis, and I'm also asking you to conduct the statistical analysis so that we can then go on to interpret whether these analyses are significant or non-significant. Remember, you're going to be using R observed and F observed for this computer lab assignment. And typically we would locate our R critical or F critical to make our decision, but we have JASP to give us those p-values so we don't have to report those. But we should be talking about how a either significant finding or non-significant finding means that our observed value is either beyond or not beyond the critical value. Okay, if you have any questions about this assignment, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to assist you. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video for the course.